Hi, everybody. We're excited to be here with you today ahead of the holiday season. We have some great insights that we want to share with you about how shoppers' behavior might impact your holiday shopping this year and what's trending in terms of key attributes in omnichannel. So, we want to share this exciting content with you, and let's get started. Today, there are three presenters on this call, and we're all going to share some really exciting and impactful information with you. We have Scott Dicker, who's our Senior Market Insights Analyst at Spins. My name is Jessica Maniscalco, and I'm a Senior Retail Insights Manager, as well as we have Jeff Crumpton on the call, who's our Senior Manager of Retail Reporting. Scott will be focused on presenting some information with current trends and changing shopper behavior. I'm going to take you through some data points with changing and evolving trends over the past two holidays, while Jeff will focus on where customers will be shopping and how to support an omni-channel experience. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Scott to kick us off.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And it's really great to be doing one of these trend pieces, looking at the holidays as we're all looking forward to it a lot more than where we were just a year ago. I think it's a great time to look back and understand how far we've come and understanding how the trends are going to look a lot different as people start to have a lot more gatherings this holiday year. And so as we go through the holiday trends, I want you to always put this lens on. These are really the key themes that we're seeing in the industry, and the holidays are going to be no different. You're going to see a lot more plant-based options on holiday tables, whether it's a meat alternative, cheeses, snacks or whatnot. We're going to continue to see plant-based play a larger role as more consumers look for these options. Holidays are typically where people go off their diet, but don't be surprised if we see a lot of people continuing to follow their diet tribes of keto, paleo, Whole30, and see some of those products incorporated into their holiday table. Although we do know that people do like to make their cheat days or indulgences around the holidays. So hopefully people aren't too strict around that. Clean label, minimal ingredients. We're going to be highlighting a lot of whole foods in this year's holiday. So it's a great way to add the table, make sure people feel good about the overall, looking for that wellness. Transparency. People are looking for, this goes hand in hand with clean labels and sustainability. Immune focus is still on people's mind. I know it was a lot more in 2020, but understand that people are looking for this total wellness, and how are you innovating your products to add this immunity and other health focuses. We will see a lot of meat and dairy in the holiday tables, but look for the rise in a lot of more sustainable organic farming practices, things that promote sustainability within meat and dairy to be highlighted. That's where we're seeing a lot of the growth. And then also, these specialty beverages that aren't alcoholic are going to play a large role. People want to feel special, maybe, use different flavors and tastes. It could be from mocktails to other elixirs and functional beverages, but those are going to play a role in this kind of booze-free crew as well. And also herbs and botanicals. So we're seeing a lot of innovation around that as well. Next slide, please. So diving right into the holidays, when looking at some survey results of what's most important to people, the overwhelming top thing is spending time with friends and family, and followed by being safe from COVID. That's still on a lot of people's mind, and resting and relaxing. And as you can see, as we go down the list, what's least important to people, going all out, it's not something that people are looking forward to, or at least claiming to. And also, social commitments, gifts, and reducing expenses. So that lets us know that consumers might not be, they're not looking to go all out, but it's not top of their mind to reduce expenses, at least for the holiday season. So Jeff and Jessica, I want to put you on the spot real quick. What are you guys most looking forward to from this list over this holiday year?
I'll say spending time with friends and family. It's just been so long since we've been able to kind of get together as a large family. And I think that we do that every year around food and family, and it's going to be really important this year.
I agree. I think spending time with friends and family is going to be really exciting, especially being able to safely gather in some of those larger groups and settings than we may have been able to in the prior year. I am also looking forward to a simplified holiday experience, whether that has to do with food and beverage or paring back gifts. Just being able to spend time with loved ones, I think, is going to be enough. So, kind of getting back to simpler times of playing a board game or having a fire, I think will be really nice.
Yeah, those all sound good. And for me, I think it's both spending time with friends and family as well as resting and relaxing. This has been a hectic year for everyone, so I think everyone deserves a little relaxation. And I would also agree with the survey that going all out would probably rank last on my list here. So our informal survey of three here kind of aligns with the with this top survey. So it's interesting to see what are some of these key priorities for shoppers. Next slide, please. And some of these factors that are going to influence the behavior, supply chain, that's top of everyone's mind, whether it's getting international ingredients or a shortage of truck drivers to get things from place to place, or being stuck at the ports. So that's going to have a large impact. And so it's going to be kind of a wait and see approach. I don't think any of the supply chain issues is going to be solved by the holidays. So look for that to kind of influence and shift in behavior as well. Scarcity driving the seller's marketplace as well. We're seeing a lot of prices go up, whether it's due to inflation or some of the supply chain issues, or still people altering their behavior from COVID as well. So that's kind of that lack of transparency as well as scarcity, making it really a seller's marketplace. But as we learned from the previous slide, a lot of people aren't overly concerned about limiting their spending for the holidays, at least. That may change, of course. And then as gifts and everything become harder to come by, I think, there was something that if you wanted your gifts to arrive by Christmas, you had to be ordering them, sometimes a month plus in advance. So look for gift cards, especially people who are supporting local businesses, to play a big role there as well. So, gift cards, both online and a regular old gift card, are going to play a big role as well. Next slide, please. And so what are the top concerns for people? Inventory, shortages, limited supplies, so empty shelves, price increases, and also long wait times. So this has to do, again, with everything that we've talked about: inflation, supply chain, and also I would highlight that long lines or wait times, as we see, different labor issues as well taking place. And so that would be obviously for in-store. And then what I mentioned previously, the wait times could mean in person, or it could also mean when you order it online, the time that it takes you to get it could be too long. And so that might actually drive more people to the stores if we're seeing that long wait time to get something delivered, really going up there. Next slide, please. And so diving into some of the data in the total store, understanding, how things are going to impact, consumer behavior when we look around the holidays. So here are some key holidays over the past 12 months, and we could kind of use this to estimate and predict what's going to happen this coming holiday season. So if we go back to Thanksgiving and Christmas of 2020, we see that the natural enhanced channel was actually growing at a faster rate than the conventional channel. And as we started to lap that stockpiling phase, we saw conventional start to lead the growth. But one thing that I do want to note is people like these, better for you, overall wellness and innovative products around the holidays. So we do expect that natural enhanced channel to really start to surge in growth as well, along with the conventional channel. So I anticipate they will be much closer and align closer to what we saw in 2020 on there as well. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jessica to give you some more trends.
Thanks, Scott. So, looking at different eating occasions during Thanksgiving, Christmas, Christmas and Easter, we looked at an indexing of occasion performance versus total grocery growth to understand really what was being prioritized by consumers in the prior year. So there's a couple of insights that you can gather from this data. So let's talk about those. Cocktail and dessert see continued momentum, indexing higher than 2020, which indicated that people are ever more interested in snacking and dessert types of food during gatherings. The other thing to note here is that the price impact on center plate could continue to have implications during the holidays as fresh items continue to become more and more expensive. We might see that shift to appetizer and snack offerings at gatherings as opposed to more expensive meat or center store entrees. The other thing to infer out of this data is compared to 2019, 2020 saw gains across the board in center store and fresh during winter holidays as the continued lockdown went on. But as things started to open back up in 2021 with Easter, you see a lap in some of the center plate and dinner occasions as consumers perhaps were leaving the home more for some of those bigger meal occasions. Now, moving into key subcategories to watch for this holiday season, what we did here was we measured growth rates compared to last year, which is a very common method to understand performance game. But what we really wanted to establish is sometimes using that method can fail to establish what categories have the most significant impact to overall contributions at a total store level. So in this case, we've taken a look at the subcategories with the highest contributions to overall growth during those key holiday periods of Christmas and Thanksgiving. And so between both of those holidays, we actually saw an overall lift during Christmas for grocery sales. You'll notice that as you compare the data between these two tables here, that packaged fruit, seafood, packaged vegetables, and cheese were among the top growth contributors for both of these holidays. Outside of those called out subcategories, we see strong double-digit growth across the board on some of those traditional subcategories that are really important ingredient and standalone components to holiday meals. With these subcategories in mind, it can help us make some predictions on what we would expect to see through the end of this year in terms of preferences. So let's look at the next slide to see what some of those key areas of the store may be. There are three primary areas where we saw large raw dollar and percent gains during the holidays last year. These three areas include baking and ingredients, treats and beverage, and other assorted areas. What you'll notice is that some of the more indulgent segments, such as candies, cookies, and beverages, are the key growth drivers for both holidays, showing high double-digit growth as many shoppers were restricted to celebrating holidays at home last year. And we all know that baking was very popular during lockdown, so that continued throughout the holidays. We expect that many of these categories will continue with their upward trajectory, but we may see smaller gains, especially with ingredients, as the world continues to open up for travel and larger celebrations, where the host may choose some easier options versus from scratch cooking for these types of events.
And then Jessica, I just wanted to jump in there and say some of these categories, they experienced such a high growth in 2020 that we might actually see them decline compared to it this year. But that doesn't mean that less people are consuming them. We do think that that's going to be a level maintained, a lot of growth from compared to 2019. But I don't know if some of this growth from 2019 to 2020 is sustainable. So keeping that in mind, understanding, especially when we talk about like baking and ingredients, I think it's going to be a lot of gains compared to 2 years ago, but we might actually see a little bit of a dip in some certain categories there.
That's a great point, Scott. So now let's take a look as we've talked about subcategories and what will be really important going to the holiday season. Let's talk about attributes. So these are some ideas of what trends were important in 2019 and how that held up compared to 2020. So here again, we're using a dollar growth index compared to total grocery across the top 5 attributes where we saw a lot of engagement during the past holiday season. So you'll see some stars across the data here. And what that is indicating is that this had a very high growth index for that specific holiday. So, looking at the number one attribute that is picking up momentum, grain free had a whopping 543 growth index for Thanksgiving and a 211 growth index for Christmas. In the second spot, there you'll see animal welfare was another key attribute during Thanksgiving of last year at a 320 index and a 190 respectively at Christmas. And then coming in third, grass fed. And you can see the respective indexes there, both in the 200s for Thanksgiving and Christmas. But in short, what all of this really boils down to is that, to Scott's point earlier, consumers are still prioritizing health and wellness products during these time periods and sticking to items that align to their deeply held beliefs and more indulgent during those more indulgent eating occasions. So we've looked at what those key attributes may be. Let's see what that looks like in terms of categories that had the most impact within those attributes. Across those five key attributes, we've pulled out the top categories of growth compared to total grocery during 2000 and 2021, so similar to the last slide. For Thanksgiving and Christmas of 2020, consumers were reaching for products that align to sustainability and animal welfare concerns. Also, during the last holiday season, you'll see that beef and pork cuts are starred while they had extremely high engagement year over year for both holidays, both within grass-fed and free range. The other call out here would be around baking ingredients, with grain-free, grass-fed, and fair trade all being important growth areas during Christmas of 2020. So now let's talk a little bit about price. And we've all been experiencing increased pricing, as this is one of the top concerns for shoppers right now, and it seems to be getting worse with each passing month. Supply chain, labor, and shortages are all impacting prices and are expecting to be an ongoing challenge. So normally what we would expect to see with food is that typical inflation varies anywhere from a rate of 1 to 3% year over year. But as we have examined subcategories in 2021, we're seeing double digit increases with that inflation versus prior year. And so what we've done is we've taken a look at price per unit increases in 2021 versus 2020, and then 2020 versus 2019, and then sorted that information by the point change of increases from 2021 versus 2020 to see what subcategories had the highest jumps between those 2 years. And so what you'll see from some of these traditional categories that are really important and big areas of engagement during the holiday season is that oil and snack mixes are two of the largest offenders with this inflation, followed by meat and dairy staples such as bacon, eggs, breakfast meat, butter, and different meat cuts. So, what you may experience is that shoppers may be looking for alternative options or purchasing less prior to the holidays, while not everyone's going to be able to stretch their budget to fit the need with this new inflation. So, with that, I want to pass it over to Jeff to understand some of the key learnings from last year and how omnichannel is going to play into that.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I really do appreciate it. So I want to take a few moments, just as Jessica said, to review some of the key learnings from last year's holiday season. We've been looking at some great survey data that that we have the fortune to see, and just want to cite a few things to provide some additional context. First, that U.S. households spend just over $1,500 on total holiday sales. So now that total sales impact surpasses that $1 trillion mark. And this was up from about 8.3 in 2019. That 30% of shoppers indicate that they shop earlier, with 66% wanting to finish as early as possible. 81% of shoppers reported that they did at least half of their holiday shopping online, and that they plan to spend as much, if not more, than last year. 52% of shoppers report that they will never do holiday shopping in person again. While this is holiday shopping for all products, which includes gifts, it does speak to the sentiment that e-comm has changed how consumers shop, and that the habits in the last couple of years are firmly rooted in mainstream. 83% of shoppers plan to use Amazon for their 2021 holiday shopping, and this is followed at 51% by Walmart, 20% by Target, And this consolidation of purchasing by to a few key retailers will certainly include some food and beverage sales too. So definitely look out there. And then finally, purchases by consumers using smartphones account for now $50 billion in sales in 2020, and expect that trend to only grow for this coming holiday season. And if we move to the next slide, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about, how e-commerce and brick and mortar projections will look like in the next 5 years. We've heard from a lot of different places where, e-comm sales during the last year, 18 months has really grown 5x from where we anticipated them being pre-pandemic. And this projection from eMarketer really plots out that growth over the next 5 years, kind of learning, seeing what we've learned and where we expect to be. You can see that huge jump in 2020 with the growth sales rates projecting to be in the strong double digits. And you can also see the increasing share of sales allocated to grocery due to this trip consolidation. And if we move to the next slide, we've talked about some of these new shopping behaviors. So let's look at some of the shopping preferences. And I'm going to look at 3 different buckets here. First is going to be in-store pickup. Next will be curbside pickup. And the next will be home delivery. It's not surprising that in-store pickup declined during COVID restrictions as shoppers were wary to do anything in person, really. However, in the endemic phases, there is an expectation that we'll see this return as the main preference for shoppers. Conversely, curbside pickup really excelled during the lockdown periods, but it's estimated to return to its pre-pandemic levels on the back end of COVID. Home delivery increased slightly during the lockdown period, but again, the expectation is this too will shrink below its pre-pandemic level. And this is really mostly driven by suburban households. This Mercatus study that we're looking at stated that grocers have better control over click and collect cost rather than using a third-party service. And shoppers here too were really mindful of the additional cost for third-party services. And they reported that they really lacked control concerning product selection and the quality of products picked that are associated with third-party services. You can also see the frequency of online shopping has increased for those areas on the right-hand side that are really daily as opposed to those that are monthly. And the strongest growth was in that 2 to 3 times a week segment, which is really about 5 points higher than the previous year. And these frequencies are, the frequencies that are measured monthly are declining the greatest. You'll see that on the left-hand side of the pie chart there. All in all, shoppers are shopping online with greater frequency, and they prefer in-store pickup, which is great news for brick and mortar retailers. But this is predicated on retailers having a robust omnichannel strategy, which makes it easier for shoppers to have control over the experience. If we move to the next slide, there are 4 key takeaways that I want to end on today. Whether shoppers are online or in store, they are looking for innovation that aligns to their deeply held beliefs while also meeting their goals of diet and well-being. You should consider partnerships that marry the online and in-store experience. And this highlights your knowledge and expertise in identifying these innovative products, and allows for ease of product discovery by shoppers, either online or in store. Understanding the larger macro trends around immunity, health and wellness, and unique products differentiates you from other retailers and firmly establish you as the go-to source. Being able to navigate key product characteristics, whether on shelf or online, allow shoppers to navigate their purchases with ease. For those products affected by supply chain and issues, this has the added benefit of being able to suggest and recommend appropriate replacements during a period of elevated sales due to holiday meals and entertainment. Price remains a key driver for channel shifting, so it's important for retailers to be mindful of the pricing relative to competitors. Partnering with brand stakeholders can combat the real and perceived pricing pressures during the holiday season. And then finally, natural, regional, and independent grocers provide customer service levels not found in larger store formats. Ensuring that your team is educated on the items and trends that shoppers are looking for this holiday season means that shoppers will turn to you when they're looking to educate themselves on supplements, immunity, health and wellness, and any seasonal products. So be sure to be prepared to offer alternative recommendations for items that may be affected by any of these supply chain issues. And then on the finally, just to finish up today on the last slide, all of our best wishes for you and for a happy and successful holiday season. Please do reach out if you have any questions for us. You see our emails below, and we'd love to hear from you. And so thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule today, and we hope to see you again very soon.